I welcome in Matt Lutovsky of the Sporting News. He's going to talk some baseball with us. Matt, good to see you again. And clearly the Phillies are on a run that we haven't seen in quite some time. In fact, they're on a 29-6 run over a 35-game stretch, which is their best stretch since 1892, which was the year that Grover Cleveland was elected to his second term as U.S. president, the only president to have non-consecutive terms. We'll see what happens in November. But at present, Grover Cleveland, the only one to have that. And right now, they beat the Rangers 5-2 in the finale of a 3-game set at Citizens Bank Park. It's their 7th sweep. They have been extremely dominant and yet still find themselves over the long haul in what will be a dogfight for the division, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Going into the year, their over-under wins was about 88.5, and that was noticeably below Atlanta's. And I think even right now, a lot of people would say, well, Atlanta's the better team or the more talented team. Is that true? I don't know. Philly's really good. Like, this isn't a total fluke by any means. But I think you look at it, and their schedule hasn't been great. Now, part of the reason their schedule doesn't look that great is because they're beating teams, and that's obviously weighing teams' records down. But, they swept the Padres in there. That was obviously really nice. And, I'm not going to just totally throw it out. There were some other decent teams in there that they've held their records down. But we'll see once they start getting into the meat of their schedule. But in their division, there really isn't anyone else who is that good other than the Braves. So that's going to help them. That's going to help them keep stacking wins for sure. And they're a really good team. Atlanta's a really good team. I think it's going to be a dogfight all summer, and we'll see how it goes. Anytime a team starts this hot, we know there's going to be some players who are overachieving a bit. That's inevitable. We know it's going to start to even out a bit, whether that's just because the play evens out or because of injury. One of those two things is going to happen. But at the end of the year, are they healthy? Are they ready to go in the postseason? And there's no doubt in my mind that if this team is healthy and if this team is ready to go, they're going to be a problem in the postseason. And they have a really good chance of making the World Series and potentially even winning it.
We've got Matt Lutovsky here from Sporting News talking about the NL East, and obviously the Phillies on fire. But the Braves just 6 games off the pace, which you could look at it either way, right? 6 games is a pretty big lead considering it's not quite yet Memorial Day, but there's also months to go. We're not even through 2 months of the season, so we have a lot more time for the Braves, who are every bit as talented as any team in the league, to be able to track them down. Right now, though, the odds are flat on FanDuel. You'd find the Phillies to win the division at -110, tied with the Braves at -110. I think everything you've said, Matt, plays into that, right? The Phillies have a soft schedule, and yes, they are impacting the fact that their schedule looks soft, but 6 games to this point for a team like the Braves, I don't think it particularly matters. Not to mention the fact that divisional titles, they mean a little bit more than they used to, but when it comes to the playoffs, we kind of don't care all that much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes, teams worry about seeding and they try to play that game, but it's not as if they're going to go all out. They're going to push a guy who might be a little sore, a little dinged up, just so they can get the divisional title. They know they're going to be in the playoffs. For the most part, that's what matters. They're going to worry more about setting their rotation up and things like that for the postseason. But I will say this, if you give me flat odds for 2 teams and one of them's got a 6-game lead, I'm going to take that team. So even though even if you like the Braves more than the Phillies, well, they don't have better odds than the Phillies right now. So I think, that's one way to look at it if you're the type that really wants to bet on divisional races in May.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff there. Any chance that any of the other three teams, the Mets, the Marlins, and the Nationals, are not terrible for the rest of the year? Any chance that any of the 3 of them can break out to at least be an average team?
I think so. I don't think those teams are terrible, or at least some of them aren't terrible on paper. Like I said, I mean, they're in a real tough division, though, and that's going to be part of what holds them down. So they might be decent teams, but you got to play the Phillies, you got to play the Braves as many times a year as they do, and that's going to keep holding them down. So, are they going to really break out and be a threat to either the Braves or the Phillies? I don't think so. But, they're going to give them a tougher time. You see a team that many times throughout the year, and eventually it starts to wear on you a little bit.
Okay, let's move over to Paul Skenes. He's obviously a story now with Pittsburgh. I think it's a great thing for baseball that you could see the number one overall pick break out and be as impactful as he has been. 16 innings pitched, 4 walks, 21 Ks, one flat whip of 1, and a 2.25 ERA. He's been great through his first 3 starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just as advertised. Rarely does this happen. And his first start, he gave up some runs. It was a little rocky. It was a shorter start, but he's just nasty. You could just see it. The generational talent wasn't a lie. I mean, this guy's averaging about 99 and a half on his fastball, throwing a hard slider, throwing a hard changeup, which when I was younger, you never would have seen a guy throwing his changeup as hard as he does. And there's just no getting around it. The guy's nasty. The guy has all the stuff. And all you can hope now is that he doesn't get hurt. And I almost hate to say that. I almost hate to say it out loud, but that's always the worry with pretty much every single young pitcher, especially one who throws this hard. But he has the stuff. There's no getting around it. A high ground ball rate to go with the nasty stuff, inducing weak contact. It's pretty much everything you want in a pitcher.
Last thing, about 30 seconds here. Rob Manfred says the robot umpires unlikely to be ready for 2025. They're doing some testing. They've run into technical issues, growing consensus in large part based on what we're hearing from players that the challenge should be the form of ABS if and when we bring it to the big leagues as a starting point. So delays on the transition to technology taking over the balls and strikes.
Yeah, no one wants to see the umpire with the huge strike zone or the more so the inconsistent strike zone. I think that's the thing that batters hate, pitchers hate, and fans hate. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm getting a little sick of robots, and it just creates problems. And the mere fact that they're like, well, we're going to have a challenge system with this. Well, if you're doing it this way, why can you challenge it? So that's my take.
Great stuff, as always, from Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. We'll be right back after this.